What is up guys, it's your boy Solheim here, back with another Classic WoW video for Season of Discovery. Now we are 1 week into Phase 3, a little bit more than 1 week now, like I don't know, 8-9 days into Phase 3, and we have successfully done 2 Sunken Temple raids. How many you've done kinda depends on if you raided the first lookout, but we're currently in the second lookout, moving into the third one. Now there are some class changes coming up both next week and probably after the reset as well. There are some class changes coming in, both quality of life, DPS increases and stuff like that, but Blizzard are just letting things be for a while, kind of putting in quality of life increases. So Feral Druid, for example, they're swapping certain runes, they're increasing the threat from Lacerate, they're giving you the ability to use both Mangle and Lacerate at the same time without them overlapping. As a bear tank, for example, that is really good, and bear tanks will be even better now. Now with that being said, I wanted to take a look at today the performance of the classes, and take a look at what is the current best class in Phase 3. And for this, we're going to be taking a look at the current logs for Sunken Temple, look at how the classes are performing, both on an overall basis and on a boss-by-boss basis. Before we do that, I do want to say that if you do want to make more gold in Season of Discovery, do consider checking out either my gold guide or subscribing to me on Patreon. In my gold guide, which is linked down below, you will find 157 pages of gold making info, containing 50 different gold farms, the best investments to do, crafts to do for profit, auction house strategies, and everything that I know to make gold. In Classic WoW back in the day, I made 10,000 gold, TBC I made 50,000 gold, in Wrath I'm currently over 1 million without doing a single GDKP, and in Season of Discovery I am currently on 15,000 gold. Now to show that as well, I guess I can just open my TSM ledger, and you can take a look at what I have in my items here. My ledger is 15.5, and my overall gold is 600 on top, so 16,000, and that is not counting the materials that I have in the bank on my other account ready to craft, so we're closer to probably 20,000 right now, which on a seasonal server I am very happy with. I do love making gold, and if you are lacking gold, then once again I believe I can help you out, and you can help me become a better content creator at the same time by getting my gold guide down below. By getting the guide, you also get early access to gold making videos, gold farms, and investments, and right now, I mean, consumables are really crazy. The gold requirement in Phase 3, even though they have reduced the cost of like epic recipes and all of the current gold things, kind of, they have reduced those, you still have to spend so much gold on consumables. So if you're lacking a little bit of gold, then definitely hit me up and I'll try to help you out. You can also check out my Patreon, where I just posted my TSM strings if you want to import those and make gold that way, and I'm uploading 1 video exclusively to Patreon every single month. Every now and then there's going to be more than 1 as well, but it's going to be 1 video per month at least that only goes up to Patreon, so you can maximize your gold making profits. Either way, let's take a look at some logs and see how the classes are performing right now in Phase 3. I will say, as a mage myself, it feels kind of weird, but I think it's going to get better and better over time. The bosses are really long, like the boss fights are really long, and the longer the boss fights are, the more I go out of mana, which really hurts my DPS. Now, going over to the logs, this is what the current logs look like in Sunken Temple as a whole. Once again, we're also going to take a look at on a boss-by-boss basis, so you can see which classes are performing really well on what boss fight. So at the top, we have Melee Hunters. They are absolutely pumping this phase. They are doing so much DPS, it is insane for Melee Hunters right there, and there's a reasoning why you see so many Melee Hunters in the World First guilds and in the clears right now as well, just because they're really good, and it doesn't require you to farm full prebis. You can still do really good DPS by just getting to max level, getting the right runes and having decent weapons, and having enough hit percentage and crit percentage. Stacking that with consumables, you really do a lot of DPS, and you get a bunch of crit by having consumables and world buffs. Now number 2, we have DPS Rogue as well, number 3 Enhancement Shaman, number 3 DPS Warrior, number 4 I mean, and number 5 Ranged Hunter. So what we can see here is that all in the top 5 are basically physical DPS, even though Enhancement Shamans do a little bit of like magic damage through, well, Lightning Shield for example, Lightning Crash, also just everything they're using also does some magic damage, but they're basically a physical DPS class, and they benefit from Wind Fury for example, really benefit from Wind Fury, and you can see all these classes are physical DPS dealers plus they don't have mana issues. Being a shaman, for example, you first of all get insane mana back through shamanistic rage, I think it is, right? And you also bring a lot of mana back to the group, which means that currently, when casters go being a horde is a really big benefit to literally everyone, because mages get mana back, healers get mana back. Being a horde is just a massive benefit right now. Now, as we get on here, and first of all, the nerfs coming in, like even this week, the bosses got nerfed by an additional 30%. It went from being like, I don't know, so hard to now being so trivial. Everything is trivial except for the last 2 bosses, which still are kind of difficult, but getting to the last 2 is absolutely insanely easy. The first boss fight, for example, went from being easy to just being AFKable. You can just literally almost AFK and still kill the first boss. He just melted so fast. So I feel like the last nerf maybe was uncalled for, but let me know what you think about that in the comments down below. Either way, the point here is that the boss fights will get shorter over time, so anyone who is currently having mana issues, those issues will fade over time. And then you will see mages do more DPS, warlocks do more DPS, anyone requiring mana will be doing more DPS, the shorter the boss fights are. Now mages, frost mages, they are actually right up here as number 6. Why did I say number 3? DPS warlock is number 7, and then we have fire mage being number 8. Followed up by Feral Druid, DPS Paladin, Elemental Shaman, Balanced Druid, DPS Priest, and then Arcane Mages. So for me, I did not expect seeing either Boomkins or Shadow Priest this low, but I don't know how to feel about that. Once again, they do bring so much to the raid. Shadow Priest, for example, absolutely smack on the healing, and so do Boomkins, if they go Wild Growth. Now, Boomkins also have the added benefit of bringing Boomkin Aura or Moonkin Aura to the ranged group, so you pretty much always want to have a Boomkin anyway to help the ranged people do even more DPS. So even though Boomkins are not top of the meters, they will be required in pretty much every single raid. Now, this is looking much less like I was expecting something way different when I made my tier list, for example, at the end of phase 2, but that was only judging by using the runes. Nobody really was expecting these boss fights to be this long, at least I don't think so. So the boss fights right now are way longer than anyone was pretty much expecting. Going from BFD to Nomer with like 30-second boss fights, to going to Sunken Temple with 2-minute, 3-minute, and 5-minute boss fights. It's a big leap, which I don't think anyone was prepared for. Even the World First Guild, they went from spending like 1 hour in Nomer to spending 16 hours in Sunken Temple. I don't think anyone was prepared for this raid, but personally I'm having a lot of fun. I just really hope they don't nerf it anymore right now, because it's in a really good place between being too easy and being too hard. It's like the first 6 bosses right now, they are really easy and really puggable, but the last 2 does require a little bit of communication or just a little bit of individual skill. Dodging the rains, for example, the raindrops on the Aranicus is a little bit of a personal skill check, and also going into the cloud at the right time is also an individual skill check or communication. Either way, those are the overall standings for the raid. Now let's take a look at this on a boss by boss basis. Who's performing well on what boss fight? So on the first one, it's basically the same. You can see physical DPS on top, melee hunters and rogues being absolutely insane. And as you can see, warriors, even though they're number 3, they still have the top percentile of being the best. So like, if a warrior is good, the warrior is going to be better than everything else. According to these, right? So the top end for warriors could be insane, but these are the medium percentiles that are right here. Now for the boss number 2, we can take a look at, we are right here, Festering Rot Slime. This one, we had, like, melee is doing really good here, but a lot of people, our guild included, the first time we killed this boss, melee was doing basically no DPS, because we just had the range to kill the boss with the melee focusing on the objects, which apparently is the wrong way to do things. The melee should be actually focusing the boss, at least a little bit, and do some DPS as well. Now, on the number 3, Ally Defenders, Rogues number 1, Hunters number 2, Enhancement Shamans, then we have Mages number 4, and Warlocks number 5. I think this is like basically what you will be seeing all the time, except for when there's two bosses at the same time. So we have Dreamsight and Weaver, for example. We have mages suddenly becoming number 3 by having the ability to cleave, and their up end, like the top end right here, also jumped up quite a bit on that boss fight. Melee hunters as well are doing really good, and rogues doing really good as well. On Jamalan, you can once again see roughly the same scenario, with Melee Hunter number 1, Rogue number 2. Rogue went from being so bad in Phase 2 to being so good in Phase 3, and you love to see it. Warriors once again being the king here. I do think they're highly contested by Melee Hunters, but Warriors being right up there on the high percentile. Then we have, after Jamalan, we have Morphus and Hasses, one of my favorite boss fights, by the way, in the entire raid. Mage, once again, number 5, but number 2 on the top end. So if you're like a high-end mage, you will not be number 5 here, you will probably be top DPS in your raid, or at least in the top 3. So here we go, we have melee hunters, rogues, enhancement shamans, DPS warriors, and once again mage. It's basically the same on pretty much every single boss fight. On Shade as well, we have enhancement shamans being really high because they can do AoE as well. Plus they're just really good on that boss fight, so the high percentile here is absolutely insane, but the median percentile is still number 2. Melee hunter number 1, rogue number 3, warrior number 4, and then we have ret paladins right here as well, DPS paladins at number 5. Now the last boss is basically a free one, Avatar of Hakar right here. Melee hunter number 1, DPS rogue number 2, enhancement shaman number 3, and warrior number 4. So as you can see, it's basically the same story on every single boss fight, with Melee Hunter being number 1, Rogue being number 2, and then the 3rd and 4th spot keeps changing a little bit, depending on the actual boss fight. Going back over to all bosses, you can take a look at right here, you can see the standings. Now, I want to show you one thing, and that is DPS Paladins, they're really low. But, and this is a big but. I was watching Asmongold's raid the other day, and this is Mac Connell's logs as a ret paladin in the raid itself, just to show you guys that even though ret paladins are really far down on the meters, or like really far down on the overall rankings in the raid, they were like number 6 and number 7, maybe even number 8, like they're really far down, but here you can see he's doing 900 DPS on boss number 1, 1000 DPS on boss number 2, 800 DPS boss number 3, 500 boss number 4, 1.1k boss number 5, and on Morphus and Hassas he was doing 1.45 DPS. Like 1,500 DPS. That is a 100 rank though, right there. On Shade he was doing 700, and Avatar of Hakar 686. Now I just wanted to highlight this because even though your class might not be number 1 on the rankings, you can still absolutely annihilate and perform a lot. Now looking at the gear here as well, like gear really matters. So this is his gear as Ret Paladin, for example. Just if you're playing a rat and you want to emulate, this is what you want to go for. So he has Sul Thrace the Lasher, for example. Absolutely great weapon. Either way, those are the class rankings according to Warcraft logs after 1 week, or I guess 2 weeks now. 2 resets of doing Sunken Temple. We're currently in the 2nd reset, and in the 2nd week. Now, I'm personally really excited to see how this changes next reset, and over the next couple of weeks. There are some classes getting quality of life changes in the very near future, even today and next week, right? So like next week, there's going to be a lot of tunings happening to the classes, and Blizzard really are on point when it comes to tuning classes. They just want to let things be for a couple of weeks, and then they come through with quality of life. For example, Warlocks, when you life tap, you will also give mana back to your pets. So if you're playing Destro Warlock and your imp keeps going that should no longer be a problem. Either way, I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a like down below, and also let me know which class you're playing in the comments, and how you think about the class's performance in the comments as well. Subscribe for more seasonal discovery content. I'm also live on Twitch. Either way, thank you for watching, and I'll see you again in the next video.